Nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you bet on people, not on strategies. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Mamuhana is the lecturer of HRM subject in this semester, and we are from Group 1. In this time, we will explain about the HRM infrastructure. So before we start our presentation at this time, let me introduce the member of Group 1. The first is me, Fatwah Aulisaina, and the second is Karunia Putri Nuari. The next is Khansa'a Rahiidah Khaadhi, and the last is Rahman. So what is HRM infrastructure? Talking about HRM infrastructure, we will talk about controlling. In this HRM has to define and implement some indicator system. An indicator on first sight looks like just a number, but defining indicators can be much difficult than it looks like. For example, what has to do to define an indicator that can give an overview of add value provided by the employees to the estimate return investment for a defined period. This is to check how much we get back. There should be a control loop with an indicator to be supplied. This type of loop helps in HRM to achieve their target related to satisfaction in employees, competence of people, internal placement, or research management. Through this HRM can check where are they and to adjust activities to achieve what they want. Yeah, so this is about the control loop of HRM infrastructure. The first you make target and then target or actual definition, cost analysis, correlative action, and repeated. Next is about indicators in HRM infrastructure. There are 8 indicators. The first is employer branding, such as awareness, education, reason supply, and employer image. The second is pricing, time to fill, cost per hire, over acceptance rate, the fees per hire, new hire satisfaction, hiring manager satisfaction, inertial rate. The third, workforce structure, such as age, gender, span of control, tenure, freelance, and also female leaders. The next, development, such as high potential, happens ready for promotion, duration of 1 level. The next, training days per employee, training cost per employee, and also training quality. Next, HR-related costs, such as salary or total cost, salary per employee, and also compensation structure. Next, exploitation and rating rate. The second was productivity, such as revenue per employee, human capital value add, employee satisfaction, and also commitment. The last is retention or safety, such as turnover rate, high turnover, boomerang rate, backward factor, and also accident per 10,000 employees. Next, we will talk about costs. There are 2 costs. There are 2 costs. The first is cost per hire. Cost per hire is one of the most important metrics in recruitment. Cost per hire measures how much it costs a company to fill an open job position. It includes all the costs associated with filling a position, such as advertising expenses, recruiting event costs, recruitment software fees, relocation expenses, and etc. Cost per hire can apply both to internal promotions within the organization or transfer, as well as new hires recruited from outside the organization. The cost per hire depends on the size of the company, the seniority of the position being filled, and the strength and efficiency of in-house recruiting. The next is about cost element. There are 8 uh, like cost element. Yeah, the first is advertising. As you know that in HRM, there are need advertising to promote like job advertising in newspaper, posting in job board, website or homepage modification, marketing material, and also image campaign. Next is travel. Travel cost of requirers and or candidates. Referral bonus like employee referrals and also candidates referrals. Search vacancy, executive search, right-hand search, contingency search, direct source providers, and also contractor. Events like job fair and etc. Operating costs like record payroll and training, applicant tracking system, infrastructure costs, IT support, office costs, communication costs. The next assessment counters, assessment centers, reference or background investigation, and also assessment tools and tests. The last is relocation for estate again, removal firms, visa or work permit application, relocation service, tax service, temporary housing, rental car, and also language training. So that's about my part. The next part will be explained by my friend Karunia Putri Nuari.
In this slide, I will be explaining about time to fill. Time to fill is the amount of time it takes a human resources team to fill an open position, and it can indicate where HR teams can make process improvement, and it can also demonstrate changes in the hiring market. And in time to fill, speed really matters. And as you can see on the picture, there are two options of recruiting time spent. The first one, we start tracking the time from the moment when workforce demand appears. Then vacancy must be approved by management when we started our marketing posting ads, then run the selection process, and then sign the job over. After that, first day of work, and after 2, 3, or 4 weeks, the end of onboarding, then there is the end of probation period. So it means that time to fill should be tracked from workforce time until the end of probation period, or maybe from when the vacancies really improve to when we have to select the right candidate. And in real life, we cannot compare time to fill between companies because each company's definition to time to fill might be different. So in these two options, we cannot choose which one is right and which one is wrong, but we need to adapt to the company's regulations to make sure that the time to fill that we choose is the right one. Next one, I will be talking about performance indicator positioning. One of the steps of HR scorecard implementation is continuous monitoring and reporting of the defined partial targets. For example, is strategic goals which are achieved. KPI or Key Performance Indicator serve to follow this phase of implementation of HR scorecard. KPIs have to be linked to all partial goals within the strategy map. It is really essential to assign the required strategic value which will have expressing power about the level of organization performance. So as we can see on this performance indicator positioning picture, there are 4 indicators which are what, why, for whom, and how. In what, there will be what indicators that the companies need, and for whom is who benefits from indicator, and why is to which objectives is the indicator related, and how is which sources and method are used to collect the data. So from this indicator, if one of them is missing, it will be hard for the company to keep up, and it will be such a bad decision if the company miss one of this indicator, because it is really vital for the company to run well. About financials, but you should have a balanced scorecard. This cover different fields like process, customer things, and it's about the people. Kapanota once said that whenever you use indicators, the key performance indicator in whatever field, they should somehow relate to the vision and strategy of the company, because if they don't, then they might be useless. The reason we need balanced scorecard is because it is minimize the information overload by limiting the numbers of measures used. Companies rarely suffer from having too few measures, and more commonly, they keep adding new measures whenever an employee or a consultant makes a worthwhile suggestion. One manager described the proliferation of new measures at his company as its kill another tree program. The balanced scorecard forces managers to focus on the handful of measures that are most critical. Several companies have already adopted the balanced scorecard. Their early experience using the scorecard have demonstrated that it meets several managerial needs. Then, as we can see on the slide, there are some performance indicator framework, which are positioning, operation, and usage. In positioning, the clients are CEO, HR head, and manager, and there must be an objective, which the objects are employee, ORG unit, and HR function. And there must be a topic, and the functions are from diagnosis, prognosis, and evaluation. And then the operation is consist of method that we can use survey our statistics, and the source that we can get from people and systems, and the owners are decentral or central, and HR controlling. Then timing is really the most important one in operation. It is the most vital. Also in this indicator there is usage, which is reporting by online or paper, views and roles, and training by interpretation, presentation, and usage. And usage is action, planning, tracking, and monitoring. So the next one I will be explaining about turnover early warning. So this is to implement indicator to predict future turnover. First, we have to define the scope or objectives, and we start to systematically analyze the turnover courses. And then after getting the data from analyzing, we can consolidate the data and define the method which might be used in the future to predict channel. Then we have to implement it and communicate to those who must use this indicator, like managers, directors, executives, and HR. Then operation phases start, and at the end there must be an evaluation to make sure that what we do is keeping on track, and if there is some problem, we can identify what is the problem, and we can make sure that on the next time we are doing this again, we are not doing the same mistake. So the next one I will explain about traditional ways to evaluate investment in HRM. There are three traditional ways, and the first one is management development. It costs 1000k euros, and the objectives are improving customer and market orientations, and also get a higher customer satisfaction. And the success indicators are responses to the training by the participants and also customer satisfaction. So the next ways is employee survey. It is also cost 1000k euros, and the objectives are improving employee satisfaction, working conditions, and also the process. And the indicators needed are response rate and amount of defined actions as a result to the survey. And the next one I will explain about return of investment or ROI. ROI is a performance measure used to evaluate the efficiency of an investment or compare the efficiency of a number of different investments. ROI tries to directly measure the amount of return on a particular investment relative to the investment's cost. So before we calculate the ROI, we need to do some steps. The first one is we need to identify the problem and what problem do we want to solve with the employees. And the next one, we need to calculate the cost of doing nothing. It means the cost that we can get from the problem that just happened. And the next one, we need to find the right solution to the problem that just happened. And the third one and the fourth one is cost of solution. It means we have to calculate it, how much does the solution cost. And there is impact of solution. It is tracking whether we have achieved an improvement with the turnover. And the last one, then we can calculate it, the ROI, with the formula benefit minus cost divided by cost times 100%. So that's all for me, and the next slide will be presented by my partner, Khansa'a Rahiidah Khaadhi.
Hello, my name is Khansa'a Khaadhi, and I'm gonna explain the HR infrastructure from slide 15 until slide 21. So let's just get started. Value added and ROE of human capital. Okay, first, human capital value added is an indicator or measurement of the financial value profit an average employee brings to an organization. In other words, it shows the average profit per employee, or to what extent does the average employee contributes to the bottom line. Human capital value added is commonly calculated on quarterly basis, which means it is calculated 4 times each year. Next slide is case of HR controlling. In the dictionary of personnel managers, increasingly grows the concept of human resource controlling, which follows the effort of companies to manage the performance of human capital, to measure its value and to compare the result with another organization. Human resource controlling amalgamates two science disciplines, controlling and human resource management, using principles and practices of controlling, which means with the personnel management knowledge. In general, personnel planning performs the roles which consist the allocation of human resource in the enterprise. It includes several activities: planning of acquiring staff, managing workers, and etc. So, it describes the whole planning process for all workers, in which it must deliberate factors such as the amount of human resource, cost, and times. The example of HR controlling case. The first company that I will mention is BMW. The strategic goals of BMW is the choice of employer, internal or external employer. The indice of BMW is attractiveness in the labor market, successful selection procedure, and employee satisfaction. Okay, and next is the measurement method of BMW. The BMW use attractiveness analyze, ratio of applicants to the invite, and exploration of employee. Next company is Berninger GmbH & Co. And the strategic goals of the company is developing qualified and motivated staff. The index of the company is employee satisfaction, qualification and quality of employee, and employee productivity. The measurement method of the company is index of happy employee, test result, and turnover per employees. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about the organization. And here's the global organization landscape. As you can see in the picture, that the global headquarters, corporate HR managing HR globally, regional HR managing regional HR, and local HR serving headquarters staff. And in subsidiaries, it's local HR that's serving subsidiary staff. And in regional headquarters, regional HR managing regional HR and local HR serving subsidiary staff. We know that globalization raises the stakes. It demands the workforce boundaries, collaboration among people from diverse contexts, social, cultural, technical, and organizational, with shorter deadlines, higher investment, and where social and organizational impacts. For this kind of high-stakes collaboration, organizations need a new social infrastructure. Traditional organizational boundaries, defined by formal function, position, title, and procedure, are no longer sufficient for supporting high-performance distributed work. Technological infrastructure alone tend to overwhelm workers with information without providing the means to make sense of the first work they work in. Several driving processes in the global business landscape will continue to shape the context for emerging forms of organization in the next century. First, demographic and aging diverse society. In interregional issues between aging developed society and the young and mature, developing and emerging economies will continue to frame issues related to business and work. Workers will have no longer work lives, and young workers will enter the workforce with distinctly different expectations of employment that are shaped by formative work and technology experience. Second, globalization of labor as workers in emerging economies continue to compete high level of education. They will become comfort of skilled global workers. In the next century, more than half of the employees in transitional economies will be from developing countries of risk. This trend will continue to assess the need for cross-cultural workforce work practice. There will be no single context for global work. And third is the rise of become the new consumer. New consumer also is emerging globally with high level of income, education, and familiarity with information, wealthy, information and communication technology. New consumer will demand more access of information and resource to make purchasing decision, and the loyalty will value and performance rather than simply to name brand recognition. Reaching these consumer demands new ways of developing and delivering products and services. Okay, in the next slide, we're going to talk about the type of organization. There are 4 types of organization. First is global. Global views the world as single market, and operations are controlled centrally from the corporate office. The next or second is international. International use existing capabilities to expand into foreign markets. Third is transnational. Transnational specialized facilities permit local responsiveness and complex coordination mechanism to provide global integration. And last type of organization is multinational. Multinational, several subsidiaries operating as standalone. Okay, for the next slide is gonna be explained by my friend Arif.
All right, thank you for the time. The Honorable Mistress Lohana, I would like to continue the explanation from my previous teammate. So here I want to explain the perceived strength and interest from two perspectives, the locally operating HR employee and globally acting HR employee. So the first one is we would like to explain about the locally operating HR employee. Which the first point is we are more familiar with operational requirement and practices. We know our customer better. We need our freedom to decide what's good for our local customer. We expect responsibilities to design our own process and tools. And the last one is it's all different in our country. The second one is we are closer to our senior. We know better what's good for the company as a whole. We are more familiar with the differences across country, and then we have the power to decide about strategic direction. Okay, now the economic of scale and scope through shared service organization. There are the curve of economic of scope in our screen, and the economic of scale. There are combination of similar process which economics of scale through decreasing redundancies, then standardization of IT or HR process, then learning. And the economic of scope, which join usage of resources through combination of resources and infrastructure, then leveling utilization and capacities. And now we are going to uh, discuss about the trend in HRM responsibilities. The production of every service of our product is managed with effort, working, and the human mind. A number of activities related to the organization are about carried out by the HR. Irrespective of the size of organization, the HR is essential for the appropriate functioning of the firm. The overall management of the firm is looked after by the HRM. The process of utilization of available workforce in a proper and maximized manner is done under the human resource management. The responsibilities of a human resource manager fall into three major. The first one is staffing, employee compensation, and benefit, and defining or designing work. Essentially, the purpose of HRM is to maximize the productivity of an organization by optimizing the effectiveness of its employee. With trends in mind, can optimize and improve your HR operation. We have already mentioned that AI or artificial intelligence is having a huge impact on the human resource sphere. It's also able to quickly connect quality data with computation service to create valuable insight. There are four quadrants of HR roles by Dave Ulrich. The first one is change again, which creating a renewed organization. Then strategic partner, which defining and executing strategy. Administrative expert, building an efficient infrastructure. Then the last one is employee champion, that is increasing employee commitment and capability. So, economic of scope and economic of scale are two concepts that explain why costs are often lower for larger companies. Economics of scope focus on the average total cost of production of a variety of goods. In contrast, economic of scale focus on the cost advantage that arises when there is a higher level of production for one good. So, the first one is economic of scope. The theory of an economy of scope states the average total cost of a company's production decrease when an increasing variety of goods produced. Economic of scope give a cost advantage to a company uh, when it makes a complementary range of product while focusing on its core competencies. Economy of scope is an easily misunderstood concept, especially since it appears to run counter to the ideas of specialization and scale economies as at first glance. One simple way to think about economic of scope is to imagine that it's cheaper for two products to share the same resource input, if possible, than for each of them to have separate inputs. Then the economic of scale. An economy of scale is the cost advantage a company has with increase of output. of a good or service. There is a negative relationship between the volume of production of goods and services and the fixed cost per unit for a company. Generally, when the fixed costs are covered, the marginal cost of production for each additional computer process decreases. At lower margin cost, additional units represent increasing profit margins. It offers companies the ability to drop prices if need be and improving the competitiveness of their product. So here for strengthen our team's argument above, we have a real case that can be the reason why our argument is enough for this material. So, Sukabumi City, West Java sniffed out the process of assigning employee as a part of adjustment to government regulation number 18 per 2016 on regional apparatus deals with injustice. A number of employees who have poor records have even secured strategic positions, such as those in the planning sector. This certainly raises jealousy from other employees. Employee placement should be based on the abilities of the employees. In the field of HR organization, things like this should not happen. Openness is needed in the employee placement process. Strategic area should be given to employees who have adequate skills, because this will have an impact on the sustainability of the organization going forward. So I think that's all from our team. I think the material is enough, and if we make a mistake, please forgive us. Thank you for the attention. Thank you for the one semester's material, Ms. Tris Lohana. We would like to say thank you very much for the lesson. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.